Hey, it's Coach Tim, SEO, and I'm here to talk about some stuff that a little business and a little bit of psychology to help you in your business and in your personal life. Frankly, this was a game changer for me. So hang on tight, find out what Tony Robbins taught me that was wrong, and what Michael Jackson, the king of pop, taught me that was sometimes right. And just so hang on. So this is in addition to a video I did a couple years ago that was sort of profound to me at that time, but I didn't feel great about it, that I didn't explain it all. I didn't put a lot of context to it. And so after talking to some people, they thought, oh, it's just about gratitude. Okay, which is great in and of itself. That's what Thanksgiving's about. It's gratitude, right? But what about all the other days of the year? Now, if gratitude is one of the great, and it's been said this, is one of the greatest states or feelings that we can have, then feeling gratitude when you have adversity, when you have anxiety throughout the day would be kind of cool, right? But sometimes to sit there and get into that state when you're pissed off, or a client, or a prospect is dissed you or whatever, or somebody on the street, sometimes it's hard to get there. And what I'm going to teach you real quick is a way to get there. It's not necessary, I'm telling you, to do this at just elevated levels of emotion, but it helps, and since you're doing it on yourself, you can get there. And why I said the thing about Tony Robbins is because I first read about this, which is anchoring, that hypnotists use and people who are in the know use all the time. I've sold stuff without ever actually telling the client, the prospect, that much about what he was going to get. That's how powerful it is. And that's when my friend Adam, who is on the podcast, soundcloud.com/Tim O'Keefe, he told me in a meeting, hey man, it doesn't need to be that nutty, that intense to anchor. But again, on yourself, it is useful, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to get into elated states of ecstasy, ecstatic gratitude to do this. But what you want to do is get into a place where you're thankful. Whether I do it often in the mornings, it's sort of my meditative time, but certainly during the day or at night. And you do what's called an anchor. And this is the thing that I didn't understand quite a lot of until Adam told me more about it. In Robbins' book, he says, like people will hug each other or touch each other at funerals, and they're really sad, and they anchor that feeling to them. Every time they get touched that way, they may start getting sad and not know why. And so I always thought it had to be real intense. It doesn't, but try to get it as intense as you can, but it's not necessary. Sometimes we just are not in the mood and can't get there, right? So try to get in the mood as best you can. Another person, actually, Tom Pizzini, on a podcast I did called Triggers, talks about that, and he specializes in anchoring as one of his, and Kim, one of their big things that they teach, and so I would listen to that also. So what you do is you get into that state, however it is, and you anchor it, right? So I'm so thankful for my lovely wife who's holding the camera right now, and you can do something like that. You can even make it more unique by going thank you, right, and adding auditory to the tapping. So it's that simple, and we do it all the time. I was just talking yesterday with my wife on a walk, and I was talking about how certain words can really irritate other people, right? And so when a relationship spirals down, we tend to anchor to each other negative things because we're in intense states, and so the negatives get anchored, right? And it's usually the voice, the way they say it. And so what I was saying is it's important when you first of all realize that you're going into some weird spiral, and then I use the word, I think, pattern interrupted. Don't say the word if you have to say it. I mean, find a different word. If you abuse words, I do that. I'll get a favorite word of the week and I'll use it over and over again, and people might get sick of it if they're around me all the time. So I might need to change the way I say that word, right? You change the tone, you draw it out, whatever. Anyway, that is that simple, okay? Now, when you get anxiety, you get a call from the IRS, thank you, right? Or something happened to your dog, whatever. If you just do that, it will shoot some good feelings into you, and take away some of that anxiety, perhaps. There's lots of ways to use this. This is for gratitude, and it can get you in a better, if you're nervous about a sales presentation, if you're nervous, anything that you don't like, do that, okay? Or however you're going to do it. You can do this or whatever. And Adam, just to demonstrate all the time, when he's anchoring, when he's trying to teach, right? He'll go like that, tapping on the surface in front of him to just make sure you realize he's doing it. But you don't. You can do it just subtly, right? There's lots of ways. So, I don't teach this. I'm just trying to pass it on. I've given you a couple of resources to check out, people I respect and I've learned a lot from, and use this. Okay, now let me. I promise this was originally for my list, and I decided I'm going to put it out there publicly. The next thing, I had told them that Michael Jackson taught me something, and I have a thing in SEO that I always tell people is major and majors don't major in minors unless that minor is a major. But then again, it wouldn't be a minor then, would it? Anyway, a lot of people tend to hear some quote-unquote guru out there state the tip of the day, right? And it usually is something that may be of importance, but is it going to move the needle? No, we need to do some other stuff first before we start worrying about the minors, right? And there's always minors in SEO. There's always minors in marketing that you could obsess over. And a lot of times they don't move the needle. So why I was saying that about Michael Jackson is actually a couple things. One is what I learned from him, and two, what I told him. You ready? So when I was in college, I would come home from school for vacation, and I would work as one of those meatheads that worked kind of security for concerts and VIPs and stuff, and because I was, I guess, fairly level-headed, I used to get a lot of the cool VIP stuff. I worked polo stuff for Sylvester Stallone. I worked did cool concerts backstage. Geddy Lee from the band Rush said some cool stuff to me one time. But anyway, I'm at the Michael Jackson practicing with his brothers when he first got his huge popularity. And I worked at the studios in West Hollywood. And it was the boringest thing you could ever imagine. I literally sat on a chair like this and read the newspaper all day for 8 hours while they practiced. Once in a while, I would go into the studio, and all it was a giant stage with a bunch of people from the Jackson 5, all the brothers, and then studio musicians that were going to tour with them for I think they called it the Victory Tour. And it was kind of like I always thought it was like Michael's gift to his brothers, because he's pretty much done with them after that, right? So I go in there and Michael's playing and all this stuff, and it's really cool. All of a sudden he goes, in my best Michael voice, "Hey everybody," and he stopped them. And he goes, "If you can't act professional and play professional, I thought I hired professionals. I'll find somebody else." And I'm like, man, I thought it sounded great. He knew musically it wasn't right. And it may have worked right for half the tour. And then all of a sudden they're going to be somewhere in a city, and that mistake will fester like a tumor and grow into something much worse and potentially ruin the sound, right? He's been around long enough. He knows that minor actually is a major. To me, it was a minor, right? So there's different times to know when it's going to matter. And it always has to do in SEO and in business. What is it that's your outcome that you want from that effort? Why are you doing that effort? People go, "I want to do this, this, and this." Or schema is a big buzzword these days. I just developed a plugin for a real estate schema. Okay. It's not that big a deal until it is, right? You got to know why you want to do it. And so people don't. So, cool story. This is what I told Michael. Michael every day would come out with his entourage, same people you would see on TV and stuff, or magazines back in the day, and they're all piling into their big limo car right next to the studio entrance. And Michael comes out to go, and I'm just sitting there like a bump on a log, kind of just watching. And this smoking hot girl walks by, and every male head that was there did one of those, right? We're all guilty of it. And Michael looks at me and goes, "Who's that?" And I'm like, surprised that he's even talking to me, right? I'm like a wallflower kind of. You try to just mix into the background on stuff like that. And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Who was that girl?" And my answer was, "I don't know." That was my Michael Jackson exchange. Anyway, you have a great day and have a great Thanksgiving.